Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this PLC. We have a slide here on the board. What awesome stories can you tell us about a student you see here? These students just graduated in December for us, and I'm sure many of you are sad and happy to see them go at the same time, so hopefully these next few minutes won't get too teary-eyed. Go ahead, Crystal.
So I have so many personal stories. I know Deanna and Michelle and those of you that have been here a few years, but Mr. Holwa was something else, but I'm so glad to see that he's finished. I've met Mr. Weatherly in person, and he's so cute, and this tiny little kid that is so smart and sweet. And then these last three names on here are very personal to me. Ms. Mercado, I met as a 7th grader at another school I worked at, and she ended up having to drop out of school due to having a child. And she posted on Facebook that she now is married with a second child. And she said the only thing she wished for her kids was that she could tell them she graduated. And so I messaged her, and we went back and forth with Miss Walk, and Miss Mercado now has a high school diploma, not a GED, and I am so proud of her. And Colin Rosario, Mr. Rosario, I'm telling you, he turned 21. Oh, Ms. Mercado is also 21. He turned 21, and we were chasing him and fighting tooth and nail. He had so much else going on in his life, and he now has a high school diploma that no one can ever take away, and he is so proud. And then the last one is my own son, who came to us so he could finish early. And now Mr. Peterson is in Fort Benning, Georgia, and is doing boot camp to become a member of the National Guard. I'm telling you, the stories just get better and better. I'm so excited for all of these students. Right, Ashley? I made it. I didn't cry.
There's still time. Anybody else? Can be a repeat kid. Your own personal experience? No, that's cool. We could just read what's on the board here. So it sounded like a funeral the way Peterson was talking here, but we lost some kids, but we lost them to positive futures. So glad to see them graduated, because as we're often reminded, that's our purpose here at Insight, is to get kids across that stage, whether we have to drag them, push them, encourage them, most likely, but we get them across the stage, and this is the first round for the class of 2020. So congratulations to you all. Thank you all for your hard work, and congratulations to these students here. All right, so today is our January 24th PLC. Sorry, I should say PLC, not faculty. We had 2 faculties in a row, so I just forgot to change. Anyone hop in? Deskin was already here. All right, so everyone signed in. Our agenda for today, I want to talk to you first, showing you tips and tricks of how to find a student's CC schedule. I was going to show you how to paste a GIF inside Class Connect, but I was trying to practice last night, trying to remind myself how to do it, and it wasn't working. So I'm going to have to dig deeper for that, and I'll probably show you guys that for the next staff meeting, is how to get a GIF into into a CC session, because as you can imagine, they would boost your CC attendance and participation. An example would be what I just posted here. This is what I do for every class that I teach, the audio setup wizard. So getting a GIF in your CCs could help with engagement and participation and just overall student happiness to get that CC attendance up. So I'm going to dig deeper into that. And if anyone already knows how to do that, it's working for you, then I'll probably ask you to do it sometime soon. But today's tips and tricks would be about finding a student's CC schedule. If you ever need to know where a kid is, or can I invite this kid to my class tomorrow, but you're not sure, you can just look it up in the OLS to find it. So I'll show you that here in just a second. And then we are going to continue the second episode of our series of Collective Teacher Efficacy. We're going to start by reminding you what visible learning is. We last met about a month ago, I think, which was Christmas, so probably a little bit before. I think it was back in November, actually, that we talked about visible learning and collective teacher efficacy. And then there's an article about joint work that I want to show you and talk to you about. And then we're going to finish with teacher networks, and then we'll wrap up with announcements. And then look at this quote here. I got this from my PD, from our PD master, Jenny Donahue, and she says that school improvement can't be 2 or 4 teachers, but by and with teachers. So keep that in mind. All of these things that we talk about on a PLC or any staff meeting whatsoever, all the decisions that we're making to improve our school, it's not something that we're doing to you or for you, but by and with you. So when we talk about what PDs, what professional development should teachers need, or it says teachers here, but really this is all stakeholders, whether it's students or even parents or board members or whatever. School improvement's really a team job, not something that we just communicate out and everyone does it. It's what we do by and with teachers. Okay, so first, tips and tricks, finding a student's CC schedule in OLS. So I want to share my screen. And when you go to the OLS, this page, if it looks familiar to you, this is what we call the OLS as opposed to the OMHS, which is where your courses are. But in the top right corner, enter last name, first name. You can just search for the student here. You can also search for teachers and do the same thing for a teacher. But let's, we're going to get a first name in here, I think, possibly. Yeah, we are. But anyway, if you click the Plan tab here, you can see where their CCs are today. And if you wanted to go to a specific date, like on Monday, for example, you can see where this particular student will be in CC, where and when. So just wanted to show you that, and you can do that for teachers as well. If you're not sure when another teacher is, you can find the teacher up here and follow the same procedure. So you've got the overview, the weekly plan for the entire week schedule, attendance reports, progress, things like that. They're all listed up here, but I will stop sharing that for obvious reasons. So you can find any information, pretty much any information about a student, their schedule, things about them inside the OLS. It is, I think it is going away, but it's not for a little bit. We still have some time with it. So in the meantime, you can use this for whatever reason you need to. Yeah, I think that's correct, Deanna. I was just worried about other information showing, like, I don't know if the address, mailing address or things like that would be in there. But I just wanted to be careful. But yeah, since students can drag their names, I think that's okay, using it for in-class purposes. All right. Okay, so visible learning. We talked about this back on November 15th. Peter DeWitt, we are 100% responsible for our 50%, meaning that we have something that we contribute, and what we do might not be enough on our own, but what we do contribute, we are 100% responsible for it, and we want to make sure it's the best that we can contribute toward it, because that's how we get to that progress, the growth, and student achievement, school improvement. So visible learning, what matters most in raising student achievement? So this probably looks familiar to you if you guys remember. The red means things that have a negative or reverse effects on student achievement. Developmental effects would be in the yellow, teacher effects would be in the green, and then anything that is a little bit green or blue and beyond are things that have a positive impact on student achievement. And that effect size here, it's actually 0.42. This image says 0.40. But anything that has a 0.42 impact on students when implemented for a full year's time, so if you implement it with fidelity for a full year's time, it has 0.42 impact. That means that it will produce 1 year of student growth, which is our mission here at K-12, or our mission at Insight is to get kids across the stage. But our underlying mission that we've been tasked with by K-12 is to get our students to grow, all students to grow by 1 full school year. So you can see the clear connection with what we're talking about and getting that 1 year growth from all students. You remember the activity where I asked you to, this was blank over here, but I asked you to rank these in order of 1 through 8, which was what do you think matters most in raising student achievement? And it was kind of a trick because it was already in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the number 1 impact on this list anyway, the number 1 impact on what raised student achievement by 1 year's growth was the concept of collective teacher efficacy. Does anybody remember what that term means? Collective teacher efficacy, or just a basic summary of it? View of the student, relationship with the student, Deanna says we believe all students can achieve. Those are all close, and you're all correct in saying that it's student related, student focused. There's an article that we're going to read later in this PLC where the question, spoiler alert, the question is, what is the main thing a teacher should focus on? And the answer has to do with students. So you're all correct in that regard. But what collective is we all, as Deanna said, we all, and Ross says working together collectively. Teacher efficacy is the concept that we all believe that what we are doing, whatever it is we're doing, we all believe that what we are doing is working. And that's just a basic lay person definition of collective teacher efficacy. We all have a feeling of this as a team, as a group, the things that we're doing, we all have our roles, we are buying into it. The things that we're doing, we believe that what we're doing is making a difference. Okay? As Eric says in the chat, when teams of educators believe they have the ability to make a difference, exciting things can happen in a school. That's exactly what collective teacher efficacy is. It's that belief that we all share that what we're doing as a team makes a difference. And so that concept, it sounds like a simple mindset change, and some of these strategies on this list here are simple mindset changes, and we'll review those more in the future months that we are in this collective teacher efficacy series. But collective teacher efficacy is a bit more than a mindset change. It has to do with changes to how we approach kids and how we approach our curriculum. But that's what we're shooting for, is making a difference in our students' lives. So I gave you a chart, and it's 2 pages. This is the front side, and this is the back side here. And you can see it's color-coded. Oops, sorry. My mouse has been double-clicking recently. I can't get it to stop. I don't know if my battery is dying or what. But you can see it's color-coded, non-standard dialect use, so not speaking in a different language, but using a different, like speaking in slang or whatever, has a negative 0.29 influence on students. Down here you can see some of the physical impacts that things have, like ADHD has a negative 0.9, anxiety has a negative 0.44. So there are things that have negative impact, and then the things that are blue, green and blue, have that positive impact that will lead towards 1 year of growth, and if implemented with a full year of fidelity. So when you look up here at collective teacher efficacy, it has that 1.39, which is the highest impact. It's what we should try to achieve if we are trying to get our students to grow by 1 year. Okay, so just a reminder, a refresher on what visible learning is in collective teacher efficacy, because that's going to lead into the next part of our PLC for today. So I have an article that I'm going to present to you, and it's called Joint Work by J.W. Little, The Persistence of Privacy. And I'm going to read this first paragraph to you, and then we're going to do an activity after that where you guys go into breakout rooms, and you'll have a paragraph that your team will discuss. And be prepared to share out for that. And then we're going to combine it all together. So joint work. I reserve the term joint work for encounters among teachers that rest on shared responsibility for the work of teaching, interdependence, collective conceptions of autonomy, support for teachers' initiative and leadership with regard to professional practice, and group affiliations grounded in professional work. Joint work is dependent on the structural organization of task, time, and other resources in ways not characteristic of other forms of collegiality, and thus is both responsive to larger institutional purposes and vulnerable to external manipulations. Does anybody see any key words in here, things that sound good or familiar to you? You've got whiteboard tools. You can underline or circle or point with your pointer tool. What stands out in this paragraph to you? Shared responsibility, double shared responsibility, interdependence, support for teachers' initiative, group affiliations. Somebody underlined what I was thinking, or highlighted what I was thinking with autonomy. If you remember from last year, those of you who were with us last year, John and I, we pushed autonomy. We tried to give you as much autonomy in your decision-making as we could allow for it. But it's not just autonomy, collective conceptions of autonomy. So all of our autonomies collaborating together to achieve that ultimate goal. They're dependent on the structural organization of task, time, and other resources. And encounters among teachers. Good. I'm glad that's important to you, getting you that autonomy, the freedom to make the decisions, to, like, as long as our goals are being accomplished, we're happy to have the autonomy, to allow the autonomy to get that accomplished. Good. All right. So, okay. So joint work. This is the introduction to the article that I'm giving you. And we are going to go into a jigsaw discussion. So in a breakout room with your group, I want you to read and analyze the paragraph that you're given. There are 3 paragraphs, so you'll be in 3 breakout rooms. Read and analyze your paragraph. Have a discussion about what you gleaned from your paragraph. What was the main idea? What did you learn from it? What would you share out with the team and be prepared to share out in the room? I don't know if you want one presenter or everyone in the group or some people in the group present something. And I'm going to leave a group in the main room for the purpose of the recording. So paragraph 1 would be in the main room. Paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 would be in a breakout room. And I'll put, I think 5 minutes on the clock is probably enough time to read and discuss. And then I'll ask you if you need more time after that. So I'm going to send everybody to a breakout room first, and then I'll pull back. Let's see, there are 26 people, so I'll pull back about 8 people to come to the main room to be in group 1. Okay, so let me do this. Breakout room, create breakout room, 3 rooms, distribute participants evenly. All right, here you go. All right, I got the main people in here, and let me send these other slides to the other rooms. No, not delete. Hang on. Copy to room 2, and then copy to room 3. Okay, and then group 1, which is Annie, Deanna, Eric, Erica, Katie, Lisa, and Lori and Sheena. This is your paragraph. So I'm going to turn off my microphone. You guys can either have somebody read it out loud and everyone listen and then discuss afterwards, or you can read it quietly to yourself and start the discussion. I'm going to hop around the rooms to facilitate.
Do you want me to read? Or does anybody care? Is there anybody there?
If you want to read, I'm good with.
Okay, it cut out there at the very end. Just, I'm thinking for purpose of recording if we want, but I don't have to read. Oh, okay.
Okay, I will go ahead and start, if that's okay. When I read this paragraph, I mean, it automatically makes me think of PLCs and how important they are. Working with other teachers, specifically ones in your curriculum area or even cross-curricular, either way. But vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, professional learning communities, all 3 of those things is what came to mind for me.
So in 2 minutes when we come back, everyone's going to share out, not everybody, but the groups will share out what they gleaned and what the main idea of the passage of the paragraph would be. So as a group, could you guys decide what you could share with the rest of the team who didn't read paragraph 1? What does it say?
One thing that I got from it that kind of came to mind was that two heads are better than one. So I feel like, collaboration goes along with all of those.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, the ideas that I have are not necessarily ideas that you have, but maybe when you say, well, what about this, then I can, it stimulates my thought. I don't know. Now I'm just talking. Also, another thing that I thought of is it really does take a village. So, like, we are the village for these kids in a lot of cases. And so, yeah.
Well, and I think kids can tell when teachers work together. For example, Deanna shared her Brain Pop PowerPoint with me, which was very helpful to get my kids started on PowerPoint. And as soon as I put the post up, they're like, "That's Coach D's PowerPoint." And I'm like, "Yes, it is."
I'll go ahead and say the big thing that I got out of it was the motivation part. It states in the middle there, and no one's underlined this, but that when people work together, they have more motivation to reach that goal than when they're working alone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And that's what for me was like that idea of about motivation gets the lesson. It's almost stand out on your own. It's like it kind of made me have to step back and kind of readjust my thinking. So it was pretty interesting.
I was gonna say it kind of is like you are a team and you don't want to let your teammates down. Like we're a team and we're all fighting to get these kids to graduate and to get these kids to succeed. And it's like you don't want to let each other down or these students down. And that's kind of what it reminds me of, like a team, literally.
All right, we got about 60 seconds left. Let me know if you need more time to discuss as a group. If not, everyone can start coming back in here in just about 60 seconds. Okay, let me check to see if anybody needs more time. I see room 2 is still talking, and Nicole's by herself in the room talking. There she is. Let me check on room 2, just one second. Rose might not know how to move herself. We'll bring her in. All right, welcome back, everybody. I hope you had a good discussion about what your paragraph was about for this joint work. And so in the true jigsaw fashion, we're going to take turns here. So we'll start with the paragraph 1 group. If we could get somebody to, or a group of people to present what you gleaned from your paragraph, the discussion that you had, and what it means for us. So paragraph 1, take it away.
Okay, I'll go. So one thing we talked about as a group for our paragraph 1 is how collaboration is key, and we work better together, so 2 heads are better than 1. And we talked about, PLCs, planning together within the same curriculum or cross-curricular, so horizontal alignment, vertical alignment, things like that. And then someone mentioned that motivation is what stood out to them, and that we are more motivated if we work together.
Excellent. Thank you. Group 1, anyone else to contribute? Anything else to share about this? Sheena covered all?
I think she covered it.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Paragraph 2. Take it away.
I think I got nominated. Our paragraph was really more about the idea that the idea of teacher collaboration isn't really well documented when it comes to making decisions. A lot of it's just kind of voluntary and tends to be more for social emotional support than actual decision making.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else contributing anything? Okay. All right. And then moving on to paragraph 3. Take it away.
This is Crystal. So in paragraph 3, it talks more about the teacher as a professional and how us being involved in like a behind the curtain type environment and being able to communicate and come up collectively with what's going to work best for students, and being motivated to make changes and being brave enough to make changes that may be challenging, to do what's best for students. And the collective, I like the last sentence, the collective capacity of a school, program, or group to serve students is arguably improved by joint decision-making on matters such as curriculum, instruction, and testing. And the fact that at this school we are involved in that makes a huge difference in our in how we perceive our profession.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you heard Peterson talking about not being afraid. Can somebody get on the mic and tell me what PACT is? P-A-C-T? Nobody? Passion, accountability. C. Anybody know what C is?
Courage?
Courage, that's right. Passion, accountability, courage, and trust. It's K-12's motto, PACT.
Okay, I knew I'd heard it before.
Yep. Passion, accountability, courage, and trust, K-12's motto. And so the courage being fearless to make decisions and go with those decisions, committing to those things, having the courage is what you heard Ms. Peterson talking about in this paragraph here. So yes, it's joint decision making is it's so powerful, so impactful on what we're trying to accomplish with collective teacher efficacy. And so what we just did there was a jigsaw discussion. Has anybody experienced or has anybody practiced with jigsaws in their classes before while at K-12? Ashley has. Thank you. So this is one way of doing a jigsaw discussion, and this is probably the least time-consuming way. I don't want to use too much of your time, but having you all in a group and then sharing out at the end of it. You could also have everybody. You could assign a paragraph to everybody, and then put those individuals into groups of 3 into breakout rooms, and one person explains to the other 2 what the first paragraph is. The second person explains to the other 2 what the second paragraph is, and so on and so forth. So that's smaller, 1-to-1-to-1, as opposed to 8 people crammed in a room reading and discussing the same passage, and then one person sharing out. So there are different ways that you could do it, but that's a jigsaw discussion, and it's pretty powerful, pretty impactful. Why is it powerful? Why is it impactful? If you look at your chart here, take a look at this. Down here, I've highlighted it in blue. Jigsaw method has a 1.20 impact on student achievement. So when we're talking about collective teacher efficacy, which is a 1.39 impact, Jigsaw's right behind it. If this is an instructional practice you put into use with fidelity a lot, that you don't have to do it every day for an entire school year, but if you put it into practice a lot, it should have according to John Hattie's research, it would have a powerful impact on student achievement. It gets students to take ownership of their work, of what they're understanding, and they can share it with each other, teaching each other. Because as you all know, I mean, we're all great teachers, you're all great teachers, but students are better teachers, guys. Students teach each other. They're the best teachers to each other. They listen to each other. So you can get them to participate more with that jigsaw method and get them to hop on the microphone, as Crystal said. All right, so anyway, the conclusion of joint work, in addition to everything you all just shared with each other, this is the concluding paragraph. That my basic argument here is that the teacher's main motivation and reward for involvement with one another will be found in the work of teaching. This is not to say that teachers do not have other motives for seeking one another out, but to argue that they are unlikely to sustain a pattern of significant out-of-classroom involvement in the absence of interdependent work-related interests. You are unlikely to sustain that pattern of significant out-of-classroom involvement without interdependence. To the extent that teachers find themselves truly dependent on one another to manage the tasks and reap the rewards of teaching, joint participation will be worth the investment of time and other resources. To the extent that the teacher's success and satisfaction can be achieved independently, the motivations to participate are weakened. So participating motivations is weakened if you can do it by yourself, but we can't. At one extreme, teachers conduct their work as fully independent entrepreneurs. In this conception, individual discretion takes precedence, and teachers' initiative on matters of practice is constrained by norms of non-interference and equal status. At the other, teachers as members of an occupational community exert reciprocal influence on one another and on the school as an organization in the interests of a student clientele for whom they accept joint responsibility. We accept that student as a team, that they are our responsibility. In this latter conception, professional autonomy and discretion reside collectively with the faculty. Put more forcefully, each one's teaching is everyone's business, and each one's success is everyone's responsibility. What Crystal's doing in the classroom is everybody's business. What Richard is doing in the classroom is everyone's responsibility. Keep that in mind. We are all accountable for all of these kids, whether they are on our math caseload. If we're a science teacher and they're taking a math test, we're accountable for those kids. That's what joint work is all about with collective teacher efficacy. What does joint work look like? What do you guys think? What does it look like when joint work is in progress? Based on what we just read. We're all reading teachers. Everybody is working on literacy because we know the goal to improve our scores, our assessment scores, to get that growth is to teach kids how to read. And so literacy is so important, and it can't just be on the English teachers to do it. We're reaching all students as a team. We have collaboration meetings like this, PLC. Hopefully this is the start or the continuation of something stronger moving forward. Communication with each other about students that aren't necessarily our own, because we care. You guys heard those tears coming from Crystal in that graduation, the senior chat at the beginning of this session. She didn't have all those kids. We all felt it, we know. CFA collaboration meetings on Thursdays, the impact that all of us have with each other, the time that we put in, that joint work that we're contributing to each other to achieve our goals. Absolutely. All right, so that was the passage on joint work, and like I said, the jigsaw method has such a powerful impact, the 1.20, so feel free to find ways to work that in there. But the ultimate goal of this would be to produce collective teacher efficacy through joint work and through approaching things as a team, which leads us to our next topic, which is teacher networks. Wheatley in 1992 says, in organizations, real power and energy are generated through relationships. We talked about this back on the first day of school, back to school batch. Relationships are how we get that growth, that success. The pattern of relationships and the capacities to form them are more important than tasks, functions, roles, and positions. You could be the best teacher in the world, but if your student doesn't think you care about him or her, it won't do anything for you. You have to build that relationship, and that's more important than being the best teacher in the world. Donahue, who is in charge of our PD, connections are made through the formation of teacher networks. Networks are comprised of clusters of schools or clusters within schools working interdependently rather than in direct competition. And then Donahue continues, networks provide an opportunity for teachers to learn with and from each other, and therefore it is a strategy that not only holds potential for enhancing efficacy, but also holds potential for creating and sustaining changes in education. So building those teacher networks, building that through joint work and collaboration, getting to collective teacher efficacy. Okay, so one last activity for you, and hopefully this one is even more fun for you. And we're going to go back into different breakout rooms. I'm going to close the ones that exist, and I'm going to put you into breakout rooms with groups of 4. And what I want you to do is hop on the microphone and discuss with each other. If you were a team of teachers, I thought about doing this by department, by grade level, by different subsections, but I think I'm just going to do it randomly. I think that's the most effective way of doing this. If you were a team of teachers, what would be your thing? Not your group's team, but your thing. What is your specialty? What do you do in your class that makes it your class and prepares students for success? This is not a checklist, by the way. You don't just go down this list of questions and say, what do I teach every class? How do I introduce a standard? These are just some guiding thoughts, guiding questions for you that helps you define what your thing is. So think about, what do I do in class that makes it my class? How do I teach every class? How do I introduce a standard? How do I close out a standard? How do I assess standards in my class? What do my exit tickets look like? And then ultimately, what impact do you have on kids in each class that you teach? What the end result of this conversation I would like it to be is your group of 4. I'm just going to use the top 4 names in the list here: Andrea, Annie, Ashley, and Ashley. What I would like is for Andrea, Annie, Ashley, and Ashley to introduce themselves to each other. I know you know each other already, but introduce yourself in the sense of Andrea tells the other 3 what is her thing, what makes her the teacher, what makes her class her class, how does she do these things. And so ultimately, in the end, Ashley Lauk can tell I'm not going to ask Ashley Lauk to, but Ashley Lauk, after listening to Andrea talking, can tell the rest of the team what makes Andrea, Andrea. If a student, and so while I was thinking about this for departments, we'll start here in just a second, but as for departments, like if we put the math or the English team together, so Sheena is the freshman teacher, and Anna, or Athena, who's not with us right now, but Anna's out on maternity leave, is the sophomore teacher, Eric is the junior teacher, and Ashley Deskin is the senior teacher. And so if a ninth grade student asked Sheena, what is Miss Boxell like? What is her class like? What does she do? Sheena should know what the differences are between her class and Anna's class, and should be able to prepare that student. And so that's what I would like for you to get from each other. In your groups of 4, learn about each other. What is your thing in your class? Tell that to each other. And then it says be prepared to share out briefly. If anyone would, I'll make that optional. I'm not going to require everybody to share out something about someone, but in your groups of 4, if anyone wants to come back and talk about what you gleaned or what excites you about the person in your group, I would more than welcome that. Okay, are there any questions about that? Let me close our breakout rooms here and then reopen them. Any questions? Is that clear? Okay, me and old Carl's making you guys talk to each other and work with each other, but I promise it's all going to be for progress. This is all about getting that student growth, that 1 year's growth for collective teacher efficacy. So here we go. I'm going to send us all into groups of 4. There are 28 of you, so that should be 7 rooms. So starting now, here you go. Have fun. And Erica, Krista, Lori and Roz, you guys are my special guinea pigs. You're on the recording here. So if you guys could participate with each other, you're on the recording.
That's exciting.
Honestly, I couldn't ask a better bunch of four. To do this. So yeah, just talk to each other, introduce yourselves. What makes you you? What makes your class you? What do you do in your class? And you can use these questions as guiding questions if you want to. But ultimately, what's your impact? What do you do? Go ahead.
Okay, ladies, and is that all ladies? Are we going to go in order, beginning with Erica and working our way down?
Whatever y'all want to do. I can start if you want me to. I mean, I'm new here, so I still feel like I'm sort of getting my land legs under me because I've been here since September 3rd, so I'm still kind of figuring out like really how to transfer like life in a brick and mortar situation to online. And so one of the things that I did in the brick and mortar was I always had music playing when the kids came in. So I do that now. I also tried to talk to the kids a little bit. I greet them, in a brick and mortar. I greeted everyone at the door with a high five, a handshake, or a hug. And so I try to do that now, although we don't do high fives, handshakes, or hugs, but I try to greet everyone as they come in. When I teach a standard, like I focus on one standard for the week rather than trying to cram 3 or 4. Like I take my power standards and focus on a standard for the week. I haven't done exit tickets yet, and my assessments I use USA Test Prep. I also like to use humor, and I use personal stories. So one time years ago, I kind of got in trouble for, a principal was like, well, kids don't really care. Well, yeah, they do. They want to know that you're human. And so excuse me. So I use personal stories, and I use my kids as subjects for my personal stories. And I think, the kids like to know, especially these kids, I'm finding out so many of them struggle with anxiety and different kinds of learning issues that, knowing that my personal children have some of those same issues, I think make me more relatable to them. And also helps them know that, hey, they're not weird, they're normal. And so I just really like to, I like to try to relate to them.
Hey guys, hey, this is Lori Tubbs. I have an IEP I have to get ready for at 2, so I've got to get out of here. Just really quick though, when I teach my class, when I introduce a standard, I also tell them exactly how we're going to work that standard and the activities or learning targets, things like that. And then I use a lot of differentiation because, of course, I'm a SPED teacher. I teach SPED DI. If you guys have any more questions, just email me, but I've got to get to this 2 o'clock IEP. Have a great day, guys.
I guess I can go ahead unless, Raj, you want to go. Thank you. I am also a brand new teacher this year, and I'm an interventionist. So I am actually working as an English interventionist for ISOK, and I do not have experience with high school. This is kind of my first rodeo with high school, so I have been learning a lot along with my students. And I think that actually helps them be relatable to me and coming to class and engaging in class. And something that I also do at the beginning of every class, which is cool to know that another teacher does it, is I always play music beforehand too, and we talk about it. I do a lot of instrumental music because I don't know all of our rules behind it. But I've had several students say they've never listened to classical music, so that's kind of something that I feel like I do maybe a little different, is try to expose them to different things that they haven't been exposed to. I also always do like a words of wisdom at the beginning of the class and always share a poem. And I have students in my class read those out loud, and they really like getting to do that. And then since I'm an interventionist and I'm doing grammar and composition, something that I really notice that my students need every single class and lots of practice with is I do kind of like a grammar correction, and I call it a grammar mugshot. So it's like mechanics, usage, and grammar. And they really like that. I have a lot better participation this block than I did last block, and I think it's because some of them were a little scared to jump in there and do it, but I think they're actually catching on, and then we go over what the actual grammar rules are, and I'm tying that to a standard, of course. I'm trying something new with assessing standards. I'm just kind of testing it out. I'm having them take a quiz ahead of time before I teach a lesson and see where, like, kind of look at each student on what I need to really focus on, and then I'm going to retest them again at the end of the unit. So I will have to pass along to you how that goes. I'm just kind of trying some new things and getting creative, but so far, what I have done so far seems to work well. I just use tickets at the end of my lesson and ask students that are watching the recording to fill that out. Of course, I would like to know a little bit more about that. I do assess them at the very end and have them tell me A through E, like what their understanding is of the lesson. And then, of course, if they give me a C or below, I send them a private message and see what they didn't understand exactly. So anyway, that's a little bit more about me. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Okay, I am newer than the two of you. This is my third week. I am planning to bring some strategies into the virtual environment that I did in my brick and mortar days, because I work virtually now with doctors and nurses to do continuing education. So I've been doing some virtual work. I teach every class with the concept of the Socratic method. My undergraduate degree was in philosophy. Who does that? But anyway, what I learned was when you ask, people will generally answer, even if it's just a yes. I like to use thumbs up to allow my students an opportunity to participate. And sometimes in my teaching method, I'll challenge them with something that is not correct so that they can have the opportunity to respond, to correct me, because students have a tendency to really enjoy correcting the teacher. So we use that Socratic give and take method. To teach a standard, because I am special education, I integrate standards. My differentiation comes from different aspects of teaching standards that relate, even if it's across subjects. We were talking about literacy earlier, so that the students can have an opportunity to improve. And what I have found that works is that having parental involvement, I find that you can be successful. So I'm excited about the learning coach piece. And I'll shut it off. I think we're supposed to stop.
Thank you, Roz. I appreciate it. Thanks for carrying over. Sorry, everyone, for interrupting you, and I hope you were in some deep discussion. So I realize some of you have IEPs in 3 minutes, so I'm just going to wrap this up really, really quickly. Teacher networks, the bottom line, collective teacher efficacy absolutely requires teacher interdependence, not independence. That's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to say. No single one of us, even small group of us, can do it alone. Knowing each other and building a network is our first step. So with this activity we just did, it wasn't even scratching the surface of what we should be trying to accomplish, getting to know each other. We can't do it alone. Building that network is the first step. And to build that network, we have to know each other. We have to know what each person does and can do. I would like to say we're going to do more of these in the future in different groups and everyone gets to know each other. I can't promise that, though. We don't have the time or the resources for that to happen. So, but keep in mind, CTE, the shared belief by a group of teachers in a particular environment that they have the skills to positively impact student outcomes. It starts with teacher networks and joint work. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this PLC announcement. My non-SPED DDI meetings will be on Fridays. Outlooks are coming soon. I'm waiting on some additional outlooks from Carolyn before I see what my official availability would be, and then I'll start doing that. I know you're all heartbroken that I haven't done your DDIs in a while, so stay tuned for that. It's coming. Travel survey, supervisor emails, make sure you're using our admin emails, KA-SAFE at Insight and CA-SMITH at Insight. It won't work otherwise. Travel survey is due tomorrow on Saturday. Make sure you do it right now after you get out of here, if you haven't already. On February 4th through 6th, the three of us, admin, will be in Minnesota, so you guys will be on your own for that, including during the PT conferences, which is 6 to 8 p.m. on February 3rd, 6 to 8 p.m. on February 6th, and 8 to 12 p.m. on February 7th, and then you're out of school after lunch. To reward you and give you back your time. Committees will start next week. Look out for emails. That is coming very, very soon. And so this PLC is kind of directly related to the joint work part. It goes hand in hand with committees, and that's what we're building into next. And then I have a walkthrough concept I would like to do. You guys know I do one-to-one walkthroughs and Carrie does one-to-one walkthroughs. I have an idea that I would like to try to implement really quickly, if I can explain. My idea is I want you guys to learn about Marzano as well. And the only way you'll learn about Marzano is if you dig into Marzano eye observation yourself. And so what I think would be really cool is if I, on your free time, on your availability, if I did something with you where, like Sheena, for example, joins me on a walkthrough for Kelly Hamrick. And then Ashley Deskin joins me on a walkthrough for somebody else. And you do your own peer walkthrough and eye observation at the same time that I do my admin one-to-one walkthrough, but yours just wouldn't count for a final score or something like that. That way you're kind of learning about the system. And we're also supposed to be doing peer walkthroughs. That's actually part of our obligation, and we just haven't done that yet, but I think we could probably kill two birds with one stone. So anyway, that was my idea. I hope to be able to do it. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I hope to be able to. I don't want to use too much of your time that you're already in class. And lastly, I'm going to send out a survey for office hours. I have the CC schedule built. SPED has everything I need from you except for office hours. So I'll get that and update the CC schedule and send that list out to SPED. Any other questions? I'm going to stop the recording. Travel survey, there is a virtual PD on the 28th. Virtual on the 28th. February 27th is the in-person in Oklahoma City. So do a travel survey for 227. Oklahoma History Center. Thank you, Carrie. I didn't know that was there. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for posting that address. That's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this PLC, and we'll do another one. I think I need to learn more about collective teacher efficacy before I build another PLC and teach it to you, but I possibly will, or we'll just do something special. And Ashley Lauk is going to teach us about Freckle next week during faculty, so I'm super excited about that. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.